live. And you'll handle, Jan, letting people in.
Yeah, I'll try.
Gotta mute it. Mute it. Okay. Letting people in. Oh, okay.
Is everyone muted or no? I can't tell.
The other participants, and they cannot unmute themselves.
Okay.
Okay, I'll start it, Jan, and you'll have to mute people who come in now. Okay, welcome Hammond North. It's June 10th at 6:01 p.m. For a special meeting. So the call to order, Gil Patton.
Here.
Jan Welch.
Here.
Tracy Smiley.
Here.
Tim Fritz.
Here.
And Chris Conti.
Here.
Okay, and Randy Vaughn cannot make it tonight. All right, so the first order would be announcements. As we've done for the last few months, the chat has been disabled and questions should be about the matter that we're discussing. With that said, I think the first order of the business is minutes. Gil, can you handle that?
So everybody received a copy of the minutes. Anybody have any questions or concerns? If not, can we get a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Okay,
second.
Jan seconds. Okay, with that, any questions about the minutes? All right, all those in favor? Okay, 6-0. Okay, next order of business I have is the budget for 26-27. Tracy?
Before we get into the budget, I still want to bring forward an invoice that we did not pay the last board meeting for Finney Law Firm. Invoice number 50520 in the amount of $102.50. This was the invoice related to Seaward. We heard back from Randy that this was due to an extension before we then apply for the dismissal. John, I don't know if you had any more context, but I want to make a motion to approve the Finney invoice from the month of April.
Well, first, is there a second? Tim seconds. Okay, yeah, I mean, the detail is that there was a time limit for when the Seaward case was first filed. And in that time period, the plan was from the beginning and still is to dismiss our end of that lawsuit. But to do that, it took a little bit longer than 28 days to err on the side of safety. They filed a delay. Since then, they filed a motion to dismiss, as I believe other parties of the suit have. There were legal complications that Julie saw that she had to address in the filing to dismiss. So after that, then it's been filed, and there'll be a hearing on that at some or a judge's decision. Gil.
John, when did you get that information?
I talked to Julie today about that, actually.
And what was the reason they filed the extension? Because they didn't get the dismissal documents in place in time?
They were preparing the dismissal documents, but they needed more time to get that done. Julie's major work is on the petition. There's still some work on the Burnham case. She did more than 28 days. I think it's $102, I think. I think it was a reasonable business decision as far as I know. That's the information I have.
The $102 is just a portion of that. It's not the entire cost of the extension. We paid most of that last week, and then we realized it was the extension.
And that doesn't affect whether we pay this invoice or not, does it?
No, when you say effect, so we paid the C word last time. This is just her filing that extension before the dismissal, which was $102 and 50
And the
cents.
dismissal has been filed,
Right.
the dismissal motion. Gil?
But the reason that we held back on this one was because we had already paid the other Finney invoice that had more of the cost related to the extension in it. It's not just $104.
No, so the reason we held back on this one is it didn't have detail originally, and I went back and asked for additional detail for this. Randy then reached out to Julie, and then they provided the detail that this portion of it, that $102.50, was just the extension.
That is not accurate. That is not what we stopped it for last week. We stopped it because we didn't understand why they went ahead with an extension instead of going straight to dismissal.
Correct. So that's why we stopped it. Randy reached out to Julie, and then Julie also reached out to John and gave the explanation of what John just said. That's why we stopped it. It had nothing to do with the other invoice we paid.
Yes, it did. I'm the one who put up the argument about it. So it absolutely did. Neither here nor there. We have to decide whether we're going to pay this. I think the explanation is a little bit short. If we're saying that they were too busy to get the work done and they had to file an extension, I don't know why that's our responsibility. So let's move on. Make the vote.
Anybody else want to comment? Okay, all those in favor of paying the Finney bill? All those opposed? Okay, 5-1. Okay, do you want to move on to the budget now, Tracy?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second. I just sent a request to share.
Okay.
All right. Can everyone see an Excel document?
Yes.
Okay. I won't be able to see everyone, so John, can you call if individuals have questions, just because I'm sharing my screen?
Sure, and let me add on that if you don't, I can't see very many participants, so owners, so if you want to raise a question, then you should raise your electronic hand, and then you'll come to the top of my list.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the draft of the 2026-2027 Hammond North budget. I'm going to walk through the line items for the budget and the accounts associated with it, starting with income, then we'll get into expenses, and then I'll talk through the changes year over year that we have put in. So for the association fee, we budgeted the amount of $873,554 plus the budget of $5,000 for COA late fees, which we do incur. And that equals $778,554, which ties to the expenses of the Hammond North building. The income must tie to the Hammond North expenses to actually balance the budget. Gil, did you have your hand up?
The COA late fees, are those actual cash or are we just putting a placeholder in there for what we're owed?
This is actual cash. When owners pay back fees or late fees associated with it, and they pay the late fees as well.
Tracy, can I ask a follow-up question about late fees? I think there are two different kinds of late fees. There's late fees when an owner pays their fee, but not within the first 10 days. There are
Then they're
also
charged a late fee.
Right. There are also late fees, I believe, associated with anybody who's in arrears for a significant amount of money or who doesn't make a payment at all. There's a late fee that's attributed to them, but that is not income that we receive until we receive everything that they owe.
So Gail, I know you had a question through email. I responded to that earlier today. I don't know if you saw it.
I saw it. Still don't agree with it.
You don't agree with budgeting for late fees?
I do not.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the utilities. So and that's a reduction of 16% for HOA income. Moving on to utilities, we have reduced and had a lower temperature in the building, so we plan to reduce those expenses as well as gas. For the water bill, we've seen a tremendously high bill due to a couple things this past year. One was a water main break that we experienced, as well as the piping associated with that. So once we're able to get down and normalize a new run rate, we budgeted $77,552, which includes the base supply line of $36,000, usage, and any incidentals that we may occur. For television and cable, we reduced the rate. This is for our business account, which supplies our internet, fire monitoring, and key fobs. We did reduce that down as we negotiated a lower rate to $6,000.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So you're talking about internet fire monitoring. Is the fire monitoring via Wi-Fi
Yes.
or is it phone lines?
Fire monitoring, let me go back and double check the bill and I'll send it to you.
Okay, and the fobs are Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So that's just internet.
What's that?
So the fobs just connect to the internet. So that's not an additional charge. That's
Right, it's for the internet. Okay. I'll double check the bill and see exactly what it says on there. All right, electric, Tim, I may call on you for this, but this is for the electrical vacant units, the utilities general, and the reimbursement. The reimbursement is specifically for, let me click on this here. The reimbursement piece is specifically for the Midwest for lower utilities, so we'll receive a credit for that. And what we did here, the sum total of that expense is $21,590, which then totals the $22,000 we see here in the budget, with the anticipation that we will still receive that credit. So total utilities are reduced by 29% year over year. Custodial supplies, really not a lot there. We do have snow removal in here. We reduced that as well because we're only going to remove the snow for a portion of the driveway, walkway, and down to the dock. So we lower that expense. General maintenance and supplies are pretty flat. For the HVAC maintenance, this is a contract for the HVAC unit. Extermination, we reduce that as well, as there's no one in the building. We still may have one or two sprays just to maintain a clean building. Security expense. So security expense has been reduced approximately $44,847. Over the past 6 months, we have reduced shifts related to security. We have reduced Monday, first shift security, Thursday, and Friday to cut expenses. So that is a saving of $44,847. Elevator maintenance, obviously is contractual and is there just in case there are any issues with the elevator. Plumbing as well. And then landscaping is just for the grass. Tim, I believe we talked through negotiating that new contract. I'm not sure if anything came out of that because we did have some issues with grass cutting over the last month or so.
so what is the contract amount?
They charge on a per cut basis.
But we're the contract is for, isn't it 12 cuts for the year every 2 weeks for the 24 weeks?
Yes. but they
I mean,
missed,
there was a total,
they missed some cuts, so they won't be charging for those cuts that they missed.
so we actually got a cost savings. But that total agreement was it 4,000 something?
Right around there, yes.
Okay, so 5 is a good number.
And that
A
was
little
projected,
savings.
that was projected on like 24 cuts or something like that. So we won't get all of those cuts.
So total routine maintenance is budgeted, excuse me, $227,400, which is a reduction of 25% year over year. Okay. $113 was for the traffic signal. We get a bill once a year for that. HVAC contract, again, this is for replacement parts and anything that happens with the HVAC unit. The fire alarm, this
Tracy,
is, yep.
Tracy, you've got contract here, and then you had above, you had contract for HVAC.
So this one is maintenance, like regular routine maintenance and replacement parts. And this one up here is for the main contract of servicing and coming in and actually doing the work.
So they reduced their contract by $6,000?
Yes, Greg worked with them on that.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. For the fire alarm and exiting services, we do an annual test each year. So I verified those numbers. For the telephone, this is the building phone system, which we reduced approximately $718. For legal expenses, so legal expenses is an estimate as of right now. This is for any ongoing partition expenses, Porter lawsuit expenses, and general estimate for Finney. Greg, can you explain? I'm sorry, John, can you explain once again regarding the Porter legal expenses? It's come up a few times, even in email, regarding why are we not paying, why are we paying our representation for the Porter
Right.
expenses?
This is not the defense of the homeowner association. This dates back to last year. Some owners have expressed concern about it, but it was a suit filed by the previous board, a countersuit for legal fees from the plaintiffs. And that falls outside the DNO contract. Whether or how we decide what to do with that countersuit is another question, which I believe is on the agenda for an executive session.
Yes. And I will say, obviously with the PSA, we are working towards selling the building. When that happens, then we obviously will not incur that partition expenses, which is the majority of this expense right now. Whoop. So there is approximately 8,000 in the budget for our audit, which we perform annually.
John, there's a question.
Oh, hey, John.
Yeah. Can you unmute John Webb?
Yeah, John, just to follow up on the attorney's fee. Yeah, I remember that being a part of the countersuit, but my understanding in looking at the court docket was that it was refiled and redone on 10/31 by Finney. So it could have been dropped in or what have you, but y'all chose to refile it according to the court records. Is that true? That's what it appears to be on the court records.
First I knew about this. We will ask Finney, and you're saying the information is the countersuit filed a year ago. That was refiled? No, actually not a year ago, 2 years ago.
So if you look at the court docket, there's answers on 10/31/2025. And it was the actual answers to the case, like, like the previous attorney did, and then it was the countersuit. And it was refiled on 10/31 by Finney and the DNO. And it's out there. So I guess, I just want clarity. Is this, was this refiled by us? Did we know it? Or was it just, he just copied what was previously out there and the board didn't know? So that's probably something y'all need to discuss in executive session, but it appears from the court docket that it was refiled on 10/31.
Okay,
You,
well,
you said
more
this on
to
the court
discuss.
doc. I'm sorry, go
More than
ahead.
discuss it, I think that we're gonna have to ask Finney about that, Julie about that.
Thank you.
All right. Um, so a minute,
Tracy, but before you get ahead there, you passed the accounting. And when do we do that audit?
let's see, the audit took place in February.
Because the April statement, I don't think it shows that have paid anything against that.
It happened in February. You see this number here? This is what's on the actual expense statement.
And
And
that's
That's when we paid it.
right. It may not be the exact same date that actually the
Right.
forms were filed and returned to them.
okay. I see it in year-to-date actual. Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
And who is that?
Greg, we can get the name of the firm from Greg. It's an independent auditing firm. It's the same firm that's been used by the HOA for a number of years.
All right, I can add the name here if that helps. All right, so getting down to administrative payroll. So administrative payroll, we have reduced $90,015 from previous expenses. We reduced another 10 hours per week, getting Tim down to 2 days a week. Greg has been 2 days a week himself, and then Mickey is still 5 days a week for 40 hours plus benefits. So that equates to $161,000 annually.
And the benefits we're paying are like for those people that are part-time or just for those hours or days that they work?
Correct. Okay. Computer support. So the computer support is has been a topic of conversation recently about the upgrades to the system, any changes we may have on the accounting system that they may use. So we did reduce that approximately $1,955. That brings our total administrative expenses to $388, which is a 34% reduction from previous year. All right, management fees. So this is the town properties management fee, which is approximately $36,927. We have gone to a month-over-month contract, which had a slight 3% increase.
Gil?
Is that correct? We have a month-over-month contract?
Well, we have a 12-month contract with a 60-day cancellation clause. No
That's what I
penalty.
thought.
Whoops.
That's a little different than month to month.
Hold on a second. I just lost my screen. So it's only 12 months now.
It's a 12-month contract with
Without.
a 60-day termination clause, no penalty.
They had proposed a 5% increase, and we got it to 3%.
Whoops. I can type. I'll just update that. I know that's what we were originally going for was month to month. I'll update the language, Gil. All right, federal income taxes. So this is the interest income tax on the reserve balance. This is an estimate. Obviously, if we make adjustments to what is in that reserve balance, then this number will be a lot less than what it is estimated for.
Okay, Dan, do you have a couple of questions? I think 1705 first.
Asked her to unmute.
That
There.
Yeah,
Yep.
I have two questions about what we were just talking about. One of which is the audit, or I'm sorry, yeah, is the audit posted somewhere?
I don't believe we've posted that in the past.
No, they used to slide it underneath our doors.
I'll check with Greg on that.
Okay, secondly, we're paying benefits for town employees. Isn't that a cost of business for town? Why are we paying for that?
It's always been part of the contract.
Yeah, it's always,
There's
But
always,
also remember, we're not paying 40 hours. We're only paying prorated for the hours that they work for us.
Benefits is a cost of business for town. Why are we paying it?
well, it's no,
Benefits have always been a pass-through on the town contract. So that continues.
So
Just because that's what we've done in the past, I thought we had better people on the board to know that benefits is a cost of business for town. Why are we paying for that? Just because
Well,
we've been
Patty,
screwed
I
in the
think
past doesn't mean we should continue, I think.
I believe this, first of all, that's to your point, that's what we've been doing. Because we're paying the salaries of, or the payroll, and including the payroll, in the payroll is the benefits. So it's all wrapped up into one cost. We're not paying town a set price and then payroll comes out of that, and we pay them an amount for their service as for managing, and then as part of our deal, we separated the payroll, which includes the benefits.
let me also add that if we were to reduce the benefits especially with Tim and Greg, Mickey is full-time with us right now, that then there's a good chance that they would become town property employees completely and wouldn't be on our payroll at all. But let's move along. Can we unmute John Webb?
So first, John, I think you misspoke there. They are town employees, but we've always paid benefits and somehow. Now you can argue about the cost of benefits. That's a whole different ballgame. But where I wanted to go, my question was on the 22,000, Tracy, with the federal tax. In our meeting 2 weeks ago in the Finance Committee, we said that was a reserve expense because it was reserved money. So therefore, it would be counted as that, not as a part of a general budget that we as owners paid, since it was based on the interest on the reserve. So I'm surprised to see that's back on there. Because it was 22,000 on federal income tax.
hold on, let me get to it.
Yeah, I mean, there is some tax that we pay, property tax on the units, but the 20,000 is based on reserve money, and so that was a
Correct.
reserve expense. And so I thought we were moving that to taking that out of this budget and put it in reserves and paying it that way.
It's been here. It's always been here.
No, that's not what I'm asking, Tracy. In our meeting, we said specifically that we were moving it to the reserve expense since it's reserve interest for that. That's what we had talked about in our meeting 2 weeks ago. And I'm surprised to see it's there. I mean, if we're putting it in the board, y'all approve it, that's fine. But if it's interest due to reserves, that's a reserve expense, not a budget expense. That should be paid from there.
So I remember you sending an email about it. We never said we were going to move federal income tax to a reserve expense in our finance committee meeting.
I guess I have to record meetings
Wait,
because
John,
that's
So
an agreement.
we did say, hold on, we did say this reserve funding line item here we wanted to take out.
That was
But
this meeting, but 2 weeks ago, we talked about that specifically. I'm gonna stop, Tracy, because you and the board are gonna do what you want. Y'all don't think about expenses, just like paying that finish.
Can we unmute?
So the whole
Go ahead.
that's okay.
Okay.
I think that's okay. I'll keep going.
Okay.
What were you saying, John?
Yeah, I just hope that everybody understands. Let everybody talk.
So the question was asked previously by John Webb if this is something that we can remove out of operating expenses and move to the reserves. The conversation that I've previously had is that the operating account and reserve account is a pool of funding. And because the federal income tax is an expense, taxes is an expense, that will be part of the operating expenses because it's interest that we have earned that we need to pay taxes on. This has been a conversation we've had twice, and every time we've met about the budget, this line item has sat here. It was not removed and paid out of reserves. It is an operating expense. I know John mentioned it, but this is where it is. Now, is it something, that is earth shattering or life changing? I think it'll come out of here or the reserves, it'll reduce the expenses, but then it'll also come out of that reserve funding pool that is for the owners. So I just want to clarify, we did have the conversation, but the amount still sits here in an expense column.
Thank you. Jan, can you unmute Kate?
Kate, can you? There.
Oh,
You were unmuted momentarily. There you go, Kate.
Okay, this is Lynn Saul. It's not Kate.
Okay.
I want to go back to the employment, and I want to clarify, and John was right. All employees are town employees. We all became town employees when town took over our contract in March of 18. Now, what my concern is the benefits, and I want to know for sure that we are only paying, if Tim's 2 days a week, then we should be paying partial benefits for Tim and partial benefits for Greg. And I think that really needs to be clarified. I don't want to know amounts, but I think that it's like 2/5 of the benefits for Greg and 2/5 of the benefit for Tim. Those are costly. And in the past, town kind of slides benefits in. So we have to be careful about that. I also want to mention, I was at the building today because I'm not sure what the job responsibilities are of these employees, but the lobby between the two glass doors is the dirtiest, full of flower petals. It is a mess. And if we've got somebody 2 days a week, there's no reason for that lobby to look like that. He's not doing, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of time in the break room. That lobby is a mess. We don't have to make it look worse than it is. So I want to go on record of I'd love to know the job responsibilities for the 2 days a week. 2, I want to double check that benefits have decreased for Greg and for Tim. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. I know, Tracy, you've answered that. I think I personally checked with Chris Conti. Maybe you could verify also the question about the proportional benefits.
Benefits are based on the percentage of employment. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on, Gil, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to go back to this $20,000 that's in operations as a result of income that's going into the reserves. I agree that it does not belong in operations. It is not an operations expense. It's a reserves expense and needs to come out of there. Otherwise, the $40,000 that are going into reserves should be going into the operations budget. The owners should not be paying, as part of their assessment, monies to pay off the taxes on money that we've earned in the reserve.
say that last part again, Gil. You said something about $40,000. I'm sorry.
Whatever the income is, I was talking about the income, and it's probably more than $40,000. Is it like $40,000 a month or something like that?
Oh,
that
the
we're getting
interest.
on interest.
The interest.
That's what I'm talking about.
On the reserve balance.
Right. But owners should not be paying in their assessment to pay off the taxes for the income that's sitting over in reserve. So it needs to be moved out of there and paid out of the reserve. Or we take the interest from that we're earning off the reserve and put it over here into the operations, and then you can pay the taxes off of it in operations, one or the other.
All right, thanks, Gil. CT 62, can we unmute them?
Okay, this is Carolyn. Number one, I totally agree with what Gil just said. If the income is coming from the reserve account, the reserve account should be paying the taxes, not us in our monthly fees. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody say, that we should be paying the taxes out of the operating expenses when they're being earned, when the income is being earned in the reserve account. So you need to move that expense and that money up into the reserve account and pay the taxes out of the reserve account on the money that it's earning. Also, for Conti's statement about whatever the percent is that the benefits are getting, you need to check to see exactly what town is paying, because I guarantee you, when I did the RFP, that's when I found that town was cheating us by 1% on the FICA taxes, and they were also overcharging us on the benefits, the retirement fund. We were fully funding their retirement and we weren't supposed to. So don't just say, oh, it's just 2% or 2.5% or whatever. You need to look, as a board, you need to take the responsibility and look at the numbers that we are actually paying for each employee. Don't just sit here and say, well, it's just what town says.
John,
Yeah, Jan.
people need to be respectful and civil.
I'm being respectful and civil. I'm sick and tired of paying.
Okay, can we move on to Tim? Patty, we'll get back to you.
I'm just curious about in regards to the reserves, the interest that they're earning. Is that money being used? What is that money being used for to offset costs?
The interest is in our reserve account, so it is being stored in the reserve.
It's not being used to offset costs in any way.
The only time we would dip into our contingency reserve is if we fall short of our operating expenses in a given month.
And and I'm just speaking of the interest. I don't know what that amount is. Is it like, or what the insurance amount is that's getting the interest?
Right now it's 15.5 million.
So that's a
last
monthly.
year. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So that's a monthly. The interest on that is roughly, I don't have a calculator out, but 30 some thousand a month.
39,000.
39,000. So that's not in any, that's just accruing amongst that and not being used to offset costs, correct?
Correct.
Is that voted on, or is that something that people are considering, or?
When you say voted on, what do you mean?
Like, I'm curious why, if that money, the principal's not getting touched, but that money seems to can be used in this particular situation with people with hardships and whatnot to offset cost.
And
Tim,
that's,
Tim,
yep. Oh,
Tim
sorry.
Tracy has been working on, and we're working with our attorneys on a distribution plan for the reserve. So
That's in the mix?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Patty, I know you have your hand up again. I hope that it's a topic other than benefits you talked on before, at a couple of points before. Can we unmute Patty?
Yes, I understand you don't want to talk about benefits anymore. But please, just two things. When the Hammond had their employees, they paid for the benefits, just like any other company pays for their own employee benefits. And most companies don't pay benefits for part-time workers. But then, moving on, I just want to comment on, did I understand you to say that Finney had time to prepare for a motion, but they didn't have time to prepare a motion to dismiss?
It's my understanding, not being a lawyer, is that it's much simpler filing a motion for a delay, an extension of time to file the motion to dismiss. They filed that soon after the original Burnham filing. And after that was filed, and I believe it was sometime after the given time that they could file it, they then filed the motion to dismiss. And
Okay.
that's what's pending.
Okay, well, the insurance companies, they filed a month or so before Finney even got around to a motion to extend. But with all due respect, Jan, if you want to be heard, or if you want us to hear what it is you're saying, you really need to speak up, because half the time we can't hear what you say, and therefore we just assume that it wasn't worth hearing. But if you could speak up, sure would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Tracy, where were you with your presentation?
All righty. So down on row 100 here. So these are permits that we have now. I know there's been conversation about permits and, you know, when those expire. So we'll definitely work on that. I know one came up regarding what do we do with, you know, permits, like we're not using a pool and we're not doing other things. So more to come on that. The last portion on here is
Tracy, hang on a second. Gil, you had a question.
Tracy, I think these permits that are here are more specific around when something occurs in the building, like when we had the water issue during
Get
the
a permit.
year, that we have to go out and get a permit. I don't think it has anything to do with the old permits.
I really don't know. Tim, do you know what kind
Here,
of the permits? Tracy?
no, I was just gonna say I'll add the names. It's more than one. I can add those on here.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So for insurance, which is one of the largest expenses, and it always comes down to the wire last minute. This is an estimate for the insurance as to what we paid this year. So I put that same estimate in here as 610,838. Obviously, when we find out what that number will be, I think Tim and John is working on that. I'll go back and update this number. Hopefully it's at a lesser amount. And then at the bottom, there's a subtraction from the reserve for the same amount, $610,838. This brings our total expenses 30% less than what we're incurring this year. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tracy, when you folks look at this and rework this file, can you align these accounts, the totals, so that they match what's on the budget sheets?
What do you mean?
I mean that there's items in here that don't the totals, like total advertising expense. I'm not sure there's such a thing in the budget sheets that get passed out every month. They're not
There
matching up.
is. They're just empty.
The totals are not matching up. The total admin expense, and I don't know, administrative costs, they're not matching up. Like, we've got the traffic sitting out there by itself. It shouldn't be out there by itself. So we don't have things totaling up that match what's on the regular monthly reports.
So the monthly,
That's all.
oh, okay. So the monthly, and I'll tell you, explain why that is. So the
Just
monthly
because previous
reports.
boards screwed the membership and didn't do things.
Sorry. Continue, Tracy.
So the financial reports is in a little bit different order than the annual report I get here. And I'm not going to go through all the line items. So the order is different. This is what I use to build the budget. So if we want to try to copy it to make it look like the sheet that's sent out every month. We can attempt to do that, but I use that document that has the monthly expenses for every single month to build the forecast that I showed earlier and to build the budget. So this document ties to the other one, if that makes sense.
So these category summations are the same as what we used last year.
Yes.
And was it true for 2024 also?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. My guess is you should check with Greg, but my guess is a different software, different ordering, different ways of tabulating our expenses and budget.
And the accounts are the same as in totals are the same. They're just in a different order in the one that comes out each month.
Okay, can we call on John? Can you unmute John Webb?
Just so everybody's aware, Tracy, thank you for that, even though we disagree on certain things. The 30%, don't be, I think it's important that owners not be deceived that they're getting a 30% reduction, because you all did that as a board, a reduction earlier. We've been paying a lower amount. And so basically, if this budget's approved, you're basically going to see about $5 to $15 at the most, for the most part, for most people, to be reduced. So I just want to make sure that people are aware when they see the 30%, they're not thinking, oh, I'll get to pay 30% of what I'm paying now. We already got that reduction.
Thanks for bringing that up, John. Because originally when we did that reduction, it was for a certain period of time when we were under contract. And so we really walked through each line item in the finance committee. So I want to actually give a shout out to the finance committee who met every week to go through this to make sure that we made the proper cuts and work with the contracts, work with all the board to get the numbers as close as the new run rate as possible in order to keep that reduction that we previously put in place.
Okay, is there anything more to your presentation?
And that is it. I took notes on the side. I'll add more comments in here. We'll go back and make a few adjustments that we talked about. I'll then create a PDF version of this. And then if we want to go through it one more time, we can. If not, then I can go ahead and post it.
Okay. Any other comments then about this this agenda item? The budget.
I would like to comment.
Sure, Tim.
I think I'm probably going to come down on the side of Gil and John Webb on that reserve. I don't think we're being consistent on how we're treating the reserves. In one instance, we took it off the budget, and in another instance, we're keeping it on the budget. So I think in order to be consistent, we ought to move the tax payments to the reserve account.
Okay. Is everyone in agreement on that? Okay, we could do that.
I just think it makes it more consistent.
I'll have to get with Greg on the accounting portion of it. So when that does come through, we need to, figure that piece out of it.
Any other comments? Okay.
And to make sure we're not breaking any gap rules. So I'll double check on that.
Okay, let's move to the next item on the agenda. We have the FOB update. Tim, is there an update on the FOB situation?
Yeah, Greg had the FOB company in the other day, and as we had discussed earlier, there isn't a way to lock out certain zones and certain doors and things like that. So it's a FOB by FOB process. So my question to Greg was, what would it take to do that? Who would do it, and what would it take to do it if we did the manual disconnect of the fobs?
Any questions, Gil?
You know when he's going to get back to you with an answer?
I just thought of asking that today, so I'm hoping he responds almost every day, so I'll probably get an answer tomorrow.
Because he and I happened to be in the building when they were there, and Greg came over and told me what had occurred. And I asked him that question at that time, so he's had a little time to think about it. He should have an answer by now.
Okay.
Tracy,
Tim, does that mean it's like in order to if we wanted to do a shut off, it's an all or nothing, or we do
think-
5 by 5?
As I understand it, what it would mean is that, as an example, you and your husband have a fob.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to go into your individual fob and turn off the lower level doors or something like that.
Okay.
So they would have to go into everybody's fob and turn off the lower level doors if that's what we want to disconnect. And that's, I'm just supposing that that's what that's what they're telling us. That probably each receiver has an address and you have to turn that address off.
So
Could
in
we?
in my conversation with Greg about this, it's similar to when somebody would no longer be an owner. Their fob would be turned off for the entire building, is what he told me. So he's got to go in there and turn everybody's fob off except for those people that we choose to continue to have a fob, which would probably be the staff and board members and the two that are in the knock box for the fire department.
Tracy, did you have a comment?
Did Greg allude to like how difficult or how much effort it would take to do that?
That's what I asked him.
Okay.
I don't know yet. And I don't know if we would do that or if the security company would have to do that.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's all there is on fobs.
Okay. Let's move on then. The next issue is building insurance update. Gil, was the meeting we had, was it right? It was after the last meeting, wasn't it?
It's Thursday, yes. John and I met with 3 representatives from Driehaus, and they're very optimistic that we will get a lower rate because there's many more people interested in our business this year due to the fact that the building is empty and we're keeping it secure. So they are hoping that they're not going to have to wait until the very last day to get a quote. In fact, they said that they're going to try very hard to have it by the 16th, or I think it's the 16th. I believe it's the day before our next meeting so that we can include it in our budget. That's what they're trying to do. So we shall see. Same thing on the DNO.
Yep. Any comments about the insurance? The board or the owners? Tracy?
Now I was going to say, if it goes past that deadline and we've approved the budget, I could still go in and revise it. If it's significant enough to lower expenses, then we can take a look at that.
Sure.
Tim?
Did they make any comments on the DNO?
They seem to believe that they could get us the contract. Beyond that, John, I don't remember. I was so focused on the other side, and they didn't talk about it much.
Right. I think it's accurate.
Go ahead.
That was accurate. Okay.
They assured us they'd get it for us, and they didn't sound like it was going to be, some greatly increased price or anything.
All right.
Okay. The next one I have is the PSA. Gil?
Oh, lots of things going on. The earnest money did get turned into an escrow company, a title company. I understand that some things have occurred there where Hammond House is going to actually move from that title company to, I believe it's going to be back to Prominent. So the earnest money will be transferring from Expert Title in Dayton back to Prominent in Cincinnati. And so that's where that stands. Hammond House had also asked about some Exactimate files, which are spreadsheet files with that the insurance companies use to identify costs for the repairs. I just received those just before the meeting from Sil and forwarded those to Mike. I don't believe there's files for every floor. I will follow up on that with Mike and Sil tomorrow to find out if the other floors exist. We also got the a letter from Hammond House's funding group, and there's some so that we've got documentation that they're going to be approved for that, but there's some hurdles that we've got to go through that they've asked us to do. They're looking for a signed copy of the PSA, which I'm sure Mike is getting to them. They're doing an appraisal. They're in the process of doing that, I know. And then once the underwriters get it, they may have some additional conditions. So that's fairly similar to what you can see in the due diligence period. So there was some discussion around. Oh, I made notes, but I can't even read my notes. The consent to sales that we sent to Hammond House, they looked at those and asked that they be fully executed. And we have done that. And those fully executed consent to sales were sent back to Hammond House on Friday. So that hurdle is overcome as well. And we're waiting for them to come back to us, and they have a few more days then to say whether or not they accept them.
Tracy.
Go ahead.
Hey, Gil, can you just explain to the owners what fully executed mean? The way they were before versus now.
They did not have our signature on them. There was a place for the HOA to sign them, and they had not been signed.
Any other questions? Questions by the owners on the current, Tim, sorry.
I have something that I didn't get a chance to catch up with you guys on today. I met with Mike and his architect and our architect to go over the prints and the drawings in anticipation of them submitting drawings for permits and things like that. So we had a fairly long and itemized going over the prints. So Mike is aware of what the status is of the prints. And we also had some discussions about Dennis, our architect, is going to lay the groundwork with the city of Cincinnati. He's going to call Art Dahlberg and make sure that Art Dahlberg knows that that Mike's architect is using his prints that Art has already approved. So we're trying to grease the skids for the city of Cincinnati also, and make sure that Mike's architect has all the prints. They're also aware of the MEP, the mechanical engineering company that was used to develop our plans. They have a relationship with that MEP organization, so that seems like that's going to work out real good. And I owe him a couple of answers on who the contractors were who held the permits in our building. They were interested in the fire protection permit, the electrical permit, the plumbing permits, and things like that. So they've got most of the information, but I owe them a couple more answers on a couple of the subcontractors. But it was a good meeting, and things look like they're headed in the right direction.
Tim, did they give you or is it any idea of when the architect would have the plans reprinted in order to go to the building department?
He's gonna forward the CAD files to Mike's architect. And then one of the things that Dennis, our architect, is insistent upon is that is that Mike and his architect have to sign off. And they have to put the new architect's name and architect number and all that other stuff on the prints. So Dennis Back's stuff has to come off of the prints, and the new guys have got to go onto the prints. So that electronic transfer is going to happen in the next couple of days.
Oh. So the transfer from Dennis over to them?
Yes. Yeah, Dennis.
Okay.
Dennis is going to forward all of his CAD files to Mike's architect, and then Mike's architect has to put all of his nomenclature on the prints so that Art and them know who are submitting these prints, and they've got traceability and things like that. So, and the other thing is Dennis offered his architect, he subcontracts his drawings. He's got a subcontractor who does his drawings, and they've also made arrangements that they're going to try to keep the same architect, the same guy who drew the prints and who has been in our building hundreds of times. They're going to try to keep him on the job also in order to make things smooth.
That's awesome. So did you get any feel if they get that done before the end of June?
I think the intent is to get it done as quickly as possible. It's just going to be a matter of transferring the files. Dennis's architect is out of town this week. He won't be back until Monday, so some of it won't start until Monday.
Okay. I'm just very anticipating the fact that once they get them in 10 days, we should have permits, and that's a huge hurdle for us.
Right.
Okay, anything else about the PSA from the board or owners? Okay, the next topic is legal update, and one on the Burnham case. We believe the previous latest information I've received is that the difference of opinion between the insurance company has been resolved. Julie, the courts had wanted to know whether there were other owners who had informed the HOA about damages, and that was not something that I think consistently that we did. Owners had filed their own cases with their own insurance companies. We gave them a list of the gutted units, but that just happened yesterday. So there's no further update on that, and hopefully that will resolve that case in Burnham. We can put that behind us. Seaward, I think we just went over it. I have nothing more to add than I think the detail that we went into about how the asking for an extension and then the dismissal of the case. It may take some time for the date to be set and for that to be resolved, but that is the status of the Seaward case. We're asking for it to be dismissed. With that, I'll move on to the petition update, and the main item there is the appraisal. Tim, could you do that?
Yeah, I exchanged a couple emails with Julie. I supplied her with the information that I compiled on the costs that we incurred last year on the building. She has forwarded that on to Colliers, sort of waiting a response from them. I did ask the question if there was a way that we could negotiate that $3,000 cost. And they said they will start working on the appraisal when they get their $3,000.
Any questions on that? Okay.
Tim, did they say how long it would take them to go through and actually do the appraisal?
I'll follow up. I'll follow up
Okay.
with them.
Okay.
In the next day or two.
And
they wanted confirmation that we were going to pay the $3,000. So that's something that we should probably vote on.
And the courts use Colliers as well, right? So if it came down to the valuation of the property, is that something that they could leverage as well,
Yes,
or is that just for ARB?
Yeah, Colliers has been involved with the court. They supplied the appraisal in early April that did not include all the money that we spent last year.
Okay.
So this is an update of that appraisal that they submitted in early April to the court.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, any other item?
John
John,
Webb.
can we mute John Webb?
So Tim, I think you confirmed this, but I just want to hear it again. So the court actually has appointed Colliers to be the appraiser. And I asked that because I remember when it was first done back in 2024, I think it was November or so, December, and I may be getting those dates wrong. The previous board had gotten them to do the appraisal, but it was just to get an idea of where we're at. And so I was unaware that the court had appointed them. So I just, for all of us, since it is May spent, I want to make sure that this is a court appointed appraiser, so we're not spending more money.
Yeah, the court has accepted their appraisal that they did in early April as part of the partition action.
All right.
Did we vote? We voted last week on paying the $3,000, right?
Oh, we did.
Yes,
Yes.
we did. We
All right,
did.
I'll confirm with them tomorrow to go.
Yeah, and I thought since the last discussion that Randy had communicated to Julie, you may want to touch base with Randy first.
Okay. Well, she sent me a note today that said Colliers is waiting for our confirmation. So I will confirm.
Okay. All right. The next item I have is the board member assignments, but I don't have that printed copy of that in front of me. I'm going to print that now, but can we move on, Tracy, for dispersal of funds update? Can you be on for that?
Yes. So, I'm sorry, Jan, were you saying something? Or unless I got some feedback, sorry. So the disbursement committee met about a week and a half ago. We had some ideas around some things that we have to determine. First, we have to determine if this is associated with a real estate purchase versus just an insurance payout. So we need to get with legal around that. We also need to make a decision on the amount that we would like to disperse versus what that holdback should be. So after we have that initial conversation, then we'll move to that next phase. Then after that, we need to talk about the process and how that will work. Obviously, as I mentioned, the last time we met is to have a third party individual to do the calculation of percentage of ownership to be able to disperse those funds to the owners. So we're still waiting to have that meeting. Tim, I think you have an update for the meeting.
Well, I just want to say that I re-asked for some dates from Chris and Isaac. And I haven't heard back, so I will follow up with them again tomorrow.
Okay.
But basically we sent them a list of the questions and the concerns that we had that came up out of our committee meeting. And so they have a preparatory document that they can be looking at, so that they'll be hopefully ready to answer the questions as we go through them.
Right. And then another thing we would have to also consider is one, the time it'll take, the process, and then how we would get the disbursement to owners. So that's another thing we need to discuss. So more to come. Hopefully we'll meet with them before our next meeting, and we'll have more of an update.
There's a lot to talk about, the legalities and the mechanics of how to do it.
Any other comments, board members, questions, owners? Okay, Patty. Can you unmute Patty?
For clarification purposes, has it already been asked if mortgage companies have rights to the reserve money?
Those are some of the legalities that we're talking about, exactly what the priority of the distribution would be and what the mechanics of the distribution would be. Those are some of the questions that we have posed to our attorneys and our title experts.
Okay, so that question is on your list that you sent to Finney.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just add, Patty, that has come up in the past, and the past legal opinion that we had is that the mortgage companies have to be considered, but we're trying to figure out how to do that.
Okay. Tim, you mentioned something about you sent something to Finney and you were looking for dates. Can you clarify what that comment was about?
What I sent to Finney was I sent them ledger sheets and invoices and documentation on the work that we did in 2025, because that was not comprehended in the appraisal that Colliers submitted to the court. So we're asking Colliers to resurrect that appraisal and give us credit for the things that we did in 2025, the money that we spent and the building improvements that we completed in 2025. So
Okay,
we're working on increasing that $9.5 million, $9.8 million appraisal. We're trying to get that up.
okay, I didn't realize that that was an actual appraisal versus just an opinion, but okay.
What happened, Patty, is in April, the court asked for some documentation on the value of the building. So Colliers was re-enlisted in late March and early April to do an appraisal. And as a result of some hurried and some confusing emails exchanges, we did not update Colliers on the money that was spent in 2025. And that's what we're trying to go back and do right now, is to try to get credit for the work that was done after their first appraisal.
Okay, so they have done a second appraisal?
All they did was they copied the first appraisal and submitted it as their second appraisal. So they turned in the same value on their April appraisal that they turned in on their December of 24 appraisal. So
okay,
that's what we're trying to update it.
Okay, did we have to pay for that, for them to send what was already done?
It was quite more extensive than what they submitted to us. The court requirements were a little bit more extensive. So although the value of the appraisal, and it was sort of a copy of the appraisal, it was also much more extensive than what they had supplied already.
Originally back in what, 24?
In December of 24.
Okay. And my final question is, who is all on this reserves committee?
That would be myself, Tim, Jan, and Chris.
Tracy, Tim, Jan, and Chris. So we don't have any owner representation? It's all board representation?
Not as of yet, due to some confidential information that we just talked about.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any other questions on that dispersal of money? Okay, then moving along, the board member assignments, just to review what we've done before. Okay, John, can we unmute John Webb?
Like Patty, I was surprised that there was a committee appointed. I didn't recall seeing that in a board meeting or minutes, but that's neither here or there. I just didn't see it. Chris, I don't know what you're laughing at. I'm just asking a question. I don't recall seeing it. So we want to be respectful of one another. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think we need to consider that if it is being distributed, you're laying on the table about $400,000 provided that's a year. And the second thing is, if we don't have the money to pay like for a big expense or something like that, and owners we already know are not paying, the association does not go bankrupt. It comes to the owners that are paying, and we could be held responsible for that and personally go bankrupt because it would never be the association. So I just think that's things, I know, Tim, that you're working with legal and everything, and I appreciate that, but that's some things that maybe you need to think about as well, and you may already have. So thank you for that consideration.
It has been a very vigorous discussion, John,
Right.
on the amount that we disperse.
Right.
So
because we do understand.
Tracy.
All sides are very well represented in that discussion.
And I would just add that I view this not as a committee in the sense of standing committee. There's a working group. And I think there's flexibility on that.
And John, that was one of the things that I mentioned is the holdback, right? So we know that there will be expenses, whether it's legal, insurance, and other things. So that is something that we're really, really considering on what that disbursement amount would be.
Okay, so move on. I think the last item I have on the agenda is the board member assignments. Gil, I have the amended list. Should I just go over them one by one? How would you prefer to do this?
Care.
Okay, so agendas are drafted by the secretary. That's Randy. The appraisal, which is related to the partition, et cetera, is Tim is taking the lead on that. Bills, Tracy is the lead on that. Chairing the board meeting, I do. The Burnham case, Randy is the lead on that. Contracts, Tim is in general contracts committee. With the particular town property contract, it's been a team of Chris and Tim. Croskery, Randy handled that, but that is basically just about wound up. The deeds committee, which was originally the consent to sell committee, Jan leads that up. Executive meetings, I chair. Finances is Tracy. The grounds committee, Jan heads that up. Insurance, Gil is primary on that one. Legal, it's both Randy and me. Minutes, Randy drafts up. Partition in general, Randy's been the head of that one. There's one item within the partition working on the court date of the between partition and direct sale, how that works. And Jan has been following up with Chris Finney on that. The Porter case, I didn't fill in this list of the board. Originally, that was Randy, Tim, and I think we should talk more about how that goes forward. But that hasn't been a functioning working group at this point. The PSA, Gil is the lead on that. The Seawork case, Randy is the lead on. Day-to-day contract with Greg and Town Property is Tim.
Sure.
And updating the website has been Randy. So any
And
comments?
now the reserve working group.
Sure, I'll put you as the lead on that. Any comments?
I think you should have Randy post that on the web, John.
Sure.
John, I have one additional question not related to that. Tim, did you get an opportunity to talk to Greg about the HVAC turning the cooling on?
Yeah, he and Tim are working on getting that fired up right now.
Excellent.
Okay. Patty, yeah, Tracy.
No, I was just gonna say, can we have a discussion about that just to make sure that the estimates we have in the budget we just reviewed is comparable to what that cooling would be for the building? I just don't want to get in a situation where it's a little more extensive than what we projected.
I guess there's a question, maybe Tim, you could follow up with Greg about that, is what he expects the expected cost of operating the chiller will be.
Oh, I think that's included in our electric estimate.
Okay, so that piece is in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the gas is primarily for the winter. And the electric I tried to project based on like equivalent months usage. So
Okay.
The electric bill should comprehend the chiller.
Okay, got it.
Any other board comments about the list? Okay, can we unmute Patty? And Patty, I assume the questions are going to be on this list of the assignments?
Well, it goes back one. It's been a while since, and I'm sure you're all very current on the governing documents, but it seems to me there's only like 2 or 3 things that the association members cannot know about. So what is all this conversation in these executive sessions that are secrets that we can't all know about?
I think that in general, it's discussion, and it has to be, according to the bylaws, on the 4 topics that are listed for executive session. And so I think that once we make decisions that come to the owners, we're trying to release as much information as possible. I sympathize that having a lot of executive meetings, but I would say a lot of them that we had recently was deciding on the PSA and the ins and outs of that legal document. But everybody who has requested the PSA now has a copy of it. So you can see the final resolution of the agreement with Mike.
Okay, thanks. What are those for? I mean, I know that it's employees, but we don't have any employees anymore. So you don't discuss contracts until they're done. And you did that with the PSA. Thank you very much. But what are the other things that can be discussed in secret with the executive sessions? You mentioned, John, that there were 4 things.
Well, there are personnel questions. For instance, I'll tell you that we reduced Mickey's security, and Mickey covered the security. And that was a personnel question. And once we decided, then I think it was brought to the board and we voted on it. We didn't vote for the executive session, but we had agreement on it. I think there are other aspects of a contract that we may discuss in executive session. It's a legal contract, binding contract. Is everybody meeting the terms of it? Are we on track? Resolution. Most of that is probably going to come back to the board, but this is a way that the boards can have open, free discussion about the ins and outs of that.
Once we get it, one of the other things, John, is once we get into and this I'm speaking for Tracy and I probably shouldn't, but once we get into the reserve distribution study, there's going to be a lot of personal finances that are going to be discussed that are not for general public knowledge in terms of mortgages, tax liens, things like that.
Right. So it's employees, of which we have none, owner issues, and then what are the other 2? I'm sorry, contracts?
Legal is mentioned. I don't have it right in front of me. There are 2 different topics. One, so there's legal advice and it may be contracts. I don't have the 4th item off the top of my head, but it's in the bylaws.
Okay. Yeah, I know I've read it several times. I just thought you'd be more, Thank you.
Okay, Tracy, you had your hand up?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. If there are no other items that we have, I think that's the agenda. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Jan, a second. Tracy. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning executive session? Okay.
Gil is not there.
We
I
have
think he stepped away.
We have 5, and that's what we needed. Okay, we'll adjourn to executive session. Thank you.
Thank you.